Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Today we are going through my entire owned nonfiction TBR. Now last month for Victober, I did do the same thing and I really enjoyed it, so I'm gonna do it again. It also brought to light some books that I didn't realize I had so many of, or that I had so many books in general. I have stacks here, I have several stacks here, and I have a couple stacks behind the camera. We're just gonna jump in. It's a lot. And I'd like to preface this by saying if you'd like to buddy read any of these with me in the future, not necessarily Nonfiction November, but anytime, please leave a comment down below. Or if you have any thoughts that I should prioritize any of these books coming up, please also leave a comment down below so I can definitely know which ones I should pick up first. Let's get into maybe the biggest one that I have, well, size-wise. Not thick-wise, which is Pioneer Girl by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I got this as a birthday present like, I don't know how many years ago, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, if not more. And this was gifted to me by my brother and sister-in-law, and it is an annotated version, so it's like quite long and kind of daunting, but I am excited to pick it up and read it eventually. So that's one on my TBR. So next we have hardcovers, I guess. These are the books that are kind of below this shelf. None of them are sorted by author or by category even within nonfiction, but they're all just hardcovers. So the first one we have is The Borden Murders, Lizzie Borden and the Trial of the Century by Sarah Miller. This is, I think, like, so the blurb on the front says, like a historical version of Law and Order. So it sounds like a very interesting trial book, and I have enjoyed a trial book recently, although it was a little dry, so I'm excited to pick up another trial book and see if I like another historical trial book. And I really do find this case fascinating about Lizzie Borden and killing her father and stepfather, her father and stepmother with an axe. But supposedly, did she do it or did she not? That is the question. All right, I also have Bonnie and Clyde, The Lives Behind the Legend by Paul Schneider. I don't really know anything about this. I just am a true crime junkie, and it's Bonnie and Clyde. It is kind of a chunky one. And I think, yeah, I picked it up at a library sale long ago. And I don't know. It's been sitting on my shelves for a while and I'm still intrigued by it, so I haven't gotten rid of it, obviously, but I'm wanting to read it eventually, like everything else. All right, another one that I have is Dynasty, The Rise and Fall of the House of Caesar by Tom Holland. This is obviously about the House of Caesar. This is Roman history, and it is a thick one as well. This is kind of my trend with my big nonfictions, or my historical nonfictions, is they tend to be chunky, and that's a little more daunting, but they all are really good for me typically. So this one just sounds really intriguing. I find ancient history fascinating. This book also has pictures, like most nonfiction do, of statues or artwork. So that one is also there. And the last one I'm holding in this stack right now is House of Treason, The Rise and Fall of the Tudor Dynasty by Robert Hutchinson. I like rise and fall of dynasties. And this one is the Tudors. So I am excited to pick this one up too eventually. It's not as big as some of the other ones, but it is also portraits in there as well. And I am also a Tudor junkie, but I also haven't read a lot of Tudor history in a long time. So maybe that's why I've been putting this one off. I also own a lot of books, so I have a lot of other books to prioritize too. All right, right behind here is the next stack. We have Escape from Alcatraz by J. Campbell Bruce, the true crime classic. Now, this one is going to be interesting to me. I went through an Alcatraz learning spree, and I ordered a bunch of books by Alcatraz and never read them. So I have a bunch of Alcatraz books in this video, I guess, Now, I also just recently watched a documentary about Alcatraz and the escape from Alcatraz, the other two, I believe. So this would be an interesting one to read because that documentary looked like it looked like people were saying that those two brothers were dummies, essentially, and were just dragged along by this man. And I would be interested to read this one, although this is a lot more of a more dated book, I guess you'd say, compared to more recent findings maybe, and I would be intrigued to find out what it is. And then the next one, hardcovers are heavy, is The Nazi Officer's Wife, How One Jewish Woman Survived the Holocaust. It's by Edith Hahn Bear, and with Susan, this is some nice fancy font, which I cannot read. So it's by Edith Hahn Beer, with Susan DeWorkin. And this is about a woman who, I believe, she escaped from a Jewish camp and changed her name and then married an officer and I believe she told him that she was Jewish, and he still married her and kept her identity a secret. So she survived the war, and this is how she was married to an officer, obviously, of the Nazi party. So I'm excited to read this one eventually, but it sounds like a harrowing tale, and that sounds scary. I like reading nonfiction from World War II, but it's very hard to read because it's someone's personal story. This is a heavy one. And I believe I heard about this one from Peru's Project First, Regan over there, or Reagan. And this is The Romanovs by Simone Seberg Montefiore. And this is a chunky one about the Romanovs, and I think she described it as just a bunch of gossip about the Romanovs and their time as ruling the Russian country, the country of Russia from 1613 to 1918. So I'm also a general history fan. So that one sounded intriguing to me. The last one I'm holding is Marie Antoinette, The Journey by Antonia Fraser. I honestly don't remember when I got this one. It is still a thick one, and it is Marie Antoinette. I'm very fascinated by all these kinds of historical figures, and Marie Antoinette is one of those figures who I think was tragically wrong place, wrong time, poor upbringing, and so I'd be intrigued to read this eventually. I am gonna run out of space fast. Let me move these. Next one on a pile is Henry VIII, Reformer and Tyrant by Derek Wilson. This one is it's a brief history of Henry VIII. And as I said, the Tudors have been something I've always been interested in. I haven't read a lot of them lately, and I have several more of those books. But Henry VIII is also fascinating as he did change a lot of English history, or he changed a lot of English laws, but he also was a law unto himself, and that's not a good situation for anyone. So that one is interesting. I think I might even have an audiobook of that one. Another one is one that I heard about from Krista from Books and Jams, which is Bread and Wine, A Love Letter to Life Around the Table with Recipes by Shauna Nyquist, I believe. And it is just a bunch of recipes, and like short stories, I think, in there too. And I'm excited to maybe read this one day. I'm not a drinker of wine. It is not conducive to migraines, I hear, and I have never just picked up a taste for it, but I would be interested to read this and try some recipes, maybe cook with wine, see if that's something I would enjoy. But for the most part, I have yet to open this, even though I heard about Krista talk about it probably a year or two ago. Then the next one is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me and Other Concerns by Mindy Kaling. I am going to struggle with that name. I'm sorry. This is a really short one, but I think the reason I haven't picked this up is because I tend to listen to these on audio. There's just so much fun being narrated by the author, and this is one I'm probably just waiting on the audiobook for, honestly. I just haven't requested it or bought it. But this one sounds like a great one. She's a very funny woman, and I would like to read her memoir, autobiography. Not being an autobiography, but a little memoir of a sorts. I tend to enjoy those books a lot. Another one, which is Tudor related, is Jane Bolyn, The True Story of the Infamous Lady Rochford by Julia Fox. This one is about Anne Boleyn's sister-in-law who infamously accused her husband and Anne Boleyn of sleeping together and committing incest. And then that obviously sentenced both of them to death. So who knows if they actually did that, but that is what this lady accused them of. So she also has quite a torrid tale in history. I think that's the way you say it. But I am intrigued to read more about her. She seems quite villainized in history, but also it's kind of interesting. So how would someone get to that point to do that? If it's true or if it's not, I don't know. Another one I have is Behind Enemy Lines The True Story of the French Jewish Spy in Nazi Germany. I'm trying to read the subtitles, by Marta Cohn. Now this one, I actually went and heard her talk in person. This was such an amazing lecture to go to. She went and talked about how she grew up in France and she is Jewish, and how where she was born and how her languages really helped her, but then also how she snuck into Germany and how she was so not influential, but how she really helped with war efforts. It's really incredible. She was awarded the highest medal in France that was the same medal given to, I think, Winston Churchill by the French. And none of her family knew about it till she went back to France and was looking at old records, I believe, of herself. And they discovered that she actually received a medal, but she never actually was given it. And so this is actually a signed copy. So it was such a fun joy to not meet her, but to see her talk. And with her husband there, she was quite elderly, but she was wiry as ever, quite witty. Her memory was going a little, but her husband kept her on track, and she was quite thankful to him for that. Such a great experience, and I am so happy to have seen that and seen her medals and seen all that stuff. So very excited to read this one day. I really do want to read it soon, though. It sounds like a very harrowing tale. Another one that I've read, I just realized one of the books on pile was one I have read already. The next one I have is Angela Thomas's Do You Think I'm Beautiful? The question every woman asks. I don't know why I have this. I don't remember buying it. Don't remember picking it up. But it's a Christian nonfiction about womanhood and beauty, and yeah, something probably good to read for every woman. The next one I have is Uninvited, Living Loved When You Feel Less Than, Left Out, and Lonely by Lisa Turkhurst. I am single, so this is something that I have meaning to pick up things like this just to, I don't know, learn more about and be more focused on. And so this is another Christian nonfiction about singlehood, I think, and just embracing life as a single person. Next one I have is, I don't know if it's a shameful one or not, but this is something where I'm not going to be ashamed of it, but I love watching reality TV. And I love watching Big Brother. Now, it's not always great. I don't love showmances. I don't love petty stuff, but I bought the book for my sister and she gave it back to me. It's called Unbothered by Angela Rummins, and she was on Big Brother with Tyler, who was a runner-up on, what was it, season 20, I think, or season 19. Anyways, I own this. Will I ever read it? We'll see. But I bought it for Joelle, my sister, because we both really enjoyed watching that season together. And it was fun to find out that they had a book, or she had a book. Another one I have is one I just was given when I went to a conference, and that is the FourYear Career by Richard Bliss Brooke. This is specific to oils, to Young Living essential oils. And I do not plan on selling Young Living essential oils, but this is on my collection. We'll see if I get rid of it. I might read it just for the sake of it and then hand it off. I don't plan on making a career as a salesperson. That's not my strength, but we'll see. Then I have this monster, which I showed in my TBR, which I am not reading, and that is Napoleon Bonaparte by Alan Scombe. This is, I think I said 800 pages, or yeah, 800 pages, nonfiction all about Napoleon Bonaparte. I picked this up because I read War and Peace, which is all about the Napoleonic Wars, and I was very interested to learn more about Napoleon from the other side, which is not Russian. So I picked this up, and I am excited to read it, like I said, but I am not excited to read it this month as it is huge. So no, thank you. And we're gonna move these because this is a good place to show what I'm currently talking about. The next one I have is Educated by Tara Westover. I have been meaning to read this one for a very long time, just haven't gotten around to it. And I feel like everyone knows what this one's about. Tara, who talks about her experience growing up, I believe, in a Mormon home, in very backwoods, and no birth certificate, no education, and having to educate herself and going to college and like getting things done on her own and really coming to that on herself. I heard it's amazing, but I've also heard mixed things from people who don't really like it, so we'll see. One book that I tried to read last November, still I'm holding on to because maybe I should just get rid of it. But right now I'm holding on to it, which is Agatha Christie, The Woman and Her Mysteries by Gillian Gill. Now this one is not well edited, and that is not a good thing for me. I need a well-edited novel or book, as typos annoy me to no end. And this one had a lot of typos within like the first 2 chapters, so I was struggling to read this a lot. I am interested in reading a biography, but she also wrote, Agatha Christie also wrote an autobiography, which I'm more interested in reading, so I might just get rid of this soon, but it's still in my collection, so we're gonna put this in this video. One I received as a Christmas present was, last year, was A Good Wife, Escaping the Life I Never Chose by Samar Zafar. So this is, I believe, about a child bride. And I don't remember where she's from, or she was 16, and it says she faces years of abuse after arriving in Canada as a teenage bride in a hastily arranged marriage. So she is fleeing that marriage, I believe. So this just sounds very, very hard to read, but very important and very interesting. Then we have True Canadian Unsolved Mysteries by Ed Butts. Now this one is, I don't know how many mysteries. It looks something like 15 mysteries, maybe 20 mysteries that are just Canadian unsolved mysteries, which I'm a true crime junkie, so it works. Next is another true crime, which I bought brand new and I meant to read. Maybe I'm gonna squeeze it in this month if I'm determined to. And that is The Lazarus Files by Matthew McGough. And this is about, so a woman was murdered, and then her husband's ex-girlfriend was a police officer, and so I believe the entire thing was like swept under the rug, and it was actually the police officer who was her husband's ex-girlfriend, and so it was like a big scandal, I think, like a love triangle and all this, so I'm super excited to read that. Next one is Mafia Crimes, The History of the Mob by Al Chimio. This one is just a history of the mafia, or history of the mob, and true crime junkie. Excited to pick that up eventually. Another one is Portrait of a Killer, Jack the Ripper, Case Closed by Patricia Cornwall. Now, it's interesting that I have this one as I am trying to read The Five right now, and that one is about Jack the Ripper's victims. So maybe I'll pick this one up. Maybe no December. I don't plan on reading this in November, but this one is Jack the Ripper and trying to discover the identity of Jack the Ripper. So that one will be intriguing when I get to it. Another one is Keep Sweet, Children of Polygamy by Debbie Palmer and Dave Perrin. Now this one, I have read a lot of books about children who are from bountiful or polygamy communities and who are kicked out or who flee. And so this is one of those situations where these children were either forced into marriage there, like young girls, or were like kicked out as boys. So yeah, the back is about, I'm trying to read it and trying to talk about it, but this is a story that takes place in 2004 about the author, Debbie, I believe, and how she had many siblings and believe she was about to get married at 18, which is quite old actually. Or maybe she did get married. I am not quite sure, but keep sweet, I know, is a phrase that was meant to basically enslave everyone so they did not feel anger or they did not question anyone. All right. Last one on this mini stack is Ambition and Desire, The Dangerous Life of Josephine Bonaparte by Kate Williams. So this one is about Napoleon Bonaparte's wife, I believe. And I just picked it up because it looked interesting, and I am always excited to learn more about queens in history. We hear so much about the men, and I'm always excited to learn more about the women. So there's that one, and let's move on to the next stack. So we only have this one and that one left. Let's get into this one now. This is the Romanov Sisters by Helen Rappaport. I believe this is nonfiction. Let me know if it's not. But this is also, I believe, yeah, I think this is just a nonfiction about their lives. Nothing saying on the back about it not being a nonfiction. I don't know. I believe it's nonfiction, like I said, about their last couple days a lot, or the daughters at the very least. If I could talk, that'd be wonderful. Next one I have is one that had an interesting title, so I figured I'd pick it up. And that is Gay Girl, Good God, The Story of Who I Was and Who God Has Always Been by Jackie Hill Perry. I haven't read this. I've heard mixed things about it, but I am intrigued to try it out and see what it is. Next, we have Montreal's Irish Mafia, The True Crime of the Infamous West End Gang by Darcy O'Connor. So, self-explanatory, Irish Mafia, and another true crime novel. Or, not novel, I keep saying that, true crime book. We have a different kind of one, which is one that I saw the movie first and We Bought a Zoo by Benjamin Mee. And I know that this will be very different from the movie, and I don't expect it to be the same. But this is something that I would be very interested in hearing about, a family who bought a zoo. So yeah, from what I remember the movie, it was about a single dad who, with his kids, bought a zoo and the struggles that came with that. So that would be interesting to me, at least, to read and have something different of a nonfiction to read. Then we have Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt. Now, I know that this is a very popular book to be talked about, but I don't remember exactly what it's about. I know it's about Angela's Ashes. I think Frank McCourt wrote about something about my sister or my lost sister, and I'm not sure what Angela is, what Angela is to Frank. I'm not sure what the relation is, but I know that it's a memoir. And I know that Frank McCourt's very well known for writing these stories, so that's why I bought it. Another one that's a bit more of a fun one is Florence Foster Jenkins, The Inspiring True Story of the World's Worst Singer by Nicholas Martin and Jasper Reese. So I haven't watched the movie, but it sounds like a really funny tale, and it sounds like a really inspiring tale as well. So a singer who can't sing but who wants to be famous anyways. So that sounds fun. Now one that's a little sad but depressing, but also good, and I think very important, is one that I should have read years ago and haven't. And that is Not Without Hope by Louise Johnson. The story of H.A. McLean and the Esperanza General Hospital. Now this is because Dr. H.A. McLean is actually my great-grandfather. And so this is the story of how he survived a massive storm on the ocean on the coast, and when he was a doctor there, and how my great uncle passed away with that whole storm. So it's a very sad story in our family history, but I do need to read this book eventually, and I want to learn about it from this perspective. So it's a very harrowing tale, and I mean, we've heard about it obviously word of mouth from down the line, but it's something that's powerful. The next one is Captivating by John and Stacey Elbridge. Stacey Elbridge? I don't know, I said sassy. Unveiling the Mystery of a Woman's Soul. And I don't know why I own this one either, like the other one. I don't remember picking this up, but it's a Christian nonfiction, obviously about women and womanhood, I guess. I don't know. I still own it for a reason, obviously, so still keeping it, I guess. Next one is, in case you haven't noticed, I have a very eclectic taste in nonfiction. The next one is You Be the Judge, 20 true crimes and cases to solve by Judge Norbert Effenfraud. This is obviously 20 cases about, like, in the trials, and I think what happens is it's like trial records, and you read it and you decide if the defendant is guilty or innocent and what should be the actual sentence. So not trying to spoil myself or anything here, but trying to get to the end of a court case. Let me see. So at the end of each chapter, I think, my friend read this, I already lent it out to her, and at the end of the chapter it says, what's your verdict? And then questions for you to consider, and then author's answers to the questions. So you can actually try and solve the case yourself. And that sounds very interesting to me. That's kind of one of the reasons why I love true crime and mysteries in general, is just to find motivations and try to piece the puzzle together. So that's good. I've been talking a while with this video. This next book is one that I wanted to read a while now, and I was reading and then I put down, and I just don't know why I haven't picked it back up. And that is The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, or The Murder at Road Hill House by Kate Summerscale. So this one is like a Victorian true crime that Kate Summerscale put together, the basically story of from the newspapers, from letters, I believe, from different people, and it takes place in 1860 when the woman was killed, the boy, their youngest son was murdered, the youngest son of this family, and who potentially did it. So I am 60 pages in, but I'm gonna need to restart, obviously, and I do want to get to that one eventually. I think I tried last year for Nonfiction November, but I just didn't make much progress. Don't know why. It was a good book. Next one I have is Midnight, Jesus and Me, Misfit Memoirs of a Full Gospel Rock and Roll Late Night Suicide Crisis Physiotherapist by J.M. Blaine. So I'm not really sure what this is. The title was just like, what is that? And this one is True Life Stories About God and Psychosis and the Glory of Rock and Roll. I'm not a big music fan. Like, I mean, I like music, but I'm not like diehard music fan. And so but that still sounds super interesting. And the title looks, not the title, the cover looks interesting too. So that's another one I own. Ooh. Next one, Birdman, The Many Faces of Robert Stroud by the author of Eyewitness on Alcatraz by Jolene Babcock. And this one is, I don't know what. It was something related to Alcatraz. That's all I remember. So let me figure it out. So according to the back, it says that this guy could either have been a nice, warm-hearted bird doctor and writer of 2 books, or he could have been a flamboyant and diabolical double murderer. And who is he? So I don't know. The author, she lived on Alcatraz, and her first book, I believe, was about the Alcatraz escape. So there's that. Oh boy. Next one is another Alcatraz book, which is actually the book that I was talking about, Breaking the Rock, The Great Escape from Alcatraz by Jolene Babcock. And so, so this is about the escaping of Alcatraz, of the three men. And I mean, I went through a binge of it, and I never read these. I ordered them all, and I didn't actually read them. So I should read them at some point. Still, I'm interested. Next one is one that I am, it's like all of these World War II nonfictions. They're just scary. Well, at least about the Jewish people who are hurting. That is The Zookeeper's Wife by Diane Ackerman. So I believe this is nonfiction. I've heard it might be fiction now, or it might be historical fiction. I don't know. But this is, I believe, about a zookeeper's wife obviously a zookeeper's wife, who hides Jewish families or Jewish children in the zoo cages from the Nazis. So I don't know if this is nonfiction or not, but if it isn't, let me know. Because I believe things like this are mixed bags, whether they are nonfiction or not. But yeah, so that one day I will hopefully read too. Another one is one that I just picked up because it's a memoir, and I like memoirs. I have no idea who this person is. #Girlboss by Sophia Amoros, and I have no idea who she is. But I own it. I should get rid of it if I'm not going to read it eventually, though. Another one I have is Maria by Maria von Trapp. So this is obviously Von Trapp, if you know The Sound of Music. This is the heroine of The Sound of Music. However, I made it to, this is what I read last November, and I was like, change my mind. I read it 7 chapters in, and this book is not that long. It's 200 pages, and I made to 65 pages, and it was going nowhere, and I was just so bored. And on top of that, it was very preachy, and I'm okay with preachy books if that's the intent of the book, but this book was just very preachy. So I'm holding on to it because I do want to finish it eventually, but I'm also not holding out high hopes to finish this book. All right, next one is The Fall of Anne Boleyn, A Countdown by Claire Ridgway. This is, I believe, a timeline, obviously a countdown to her execution, which is very interesting to me, different kind of style of book. And it sounds like an intriguing look at Anne Boleyn's execution. Another one that I have is Every Breath You Take by Anne Rule. This one is a true crime. I don't know anything about it. I just know that I read The Stranger Beside Me, I believe it was, which is also by Anne Rule, about Ted Bundy, and I was creeped out, but it was really well done, so I picked up another of hers. And I know that she writes a lot of true crime, so I picked this one up for that reason alone. Another one that I have is The Climb by Anatole Borokov and G. Weston DeWalt. So this is about the Everest, tragic ambitions on Everest. So I like adventure stories and survival stories too in my books, so in my nonfiction. So pick this one up. It's actually really short, so that'll be nice whenever I get to it. Then I have here Soul Surfer by Bethany Hamilton. And this one I have read her mom's book about it, but I bought hers and I haven't read it yet. So this one was just, I think, about her experience of being bitten by the shark and losing her arm and recovering from that. So that sounds like another survival story, another interesting adventure story. So we're officially on the last stack. Let's finish this up. My voice is so dry right now from all the talking. The next one is A Brief History of Mutiny, Furious, Savage, and Bloody, 400 Years of Rebellion by Richard Woodman. This is about the notorious mutiny on the Bounty. Has been, or not about just that, but it's about many mutinies like that. So I remember trying to read this, and it's just very small print. And so it's just a lot more dense than it looks. So that one is one that I am intrigued by, the whole piracy thing. Another one is Book of General Ignorance. So by John Lloyd and John Mitchinson. I've read snippets of this, but I have not finished the whole thing. And I just remember being like really interesting where one thing was like what's the most unlucky day of the year, which is actually more like Monday the 23rd or something, not Friday the 13th. That kind of thing. Another book I have is The Mammoth Book of Pirates, edited by John E. Lewis. Over 25 true tales of devilry, daring, and by the most infamous pirates of all time. These subtitles are like making me talk a lot. Anyways, here are nearly 30 eyewitness and first-hand adventures of history's most infamous pirates and privateers, including Blackbeard, Captain Kidd, Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, and Jean Lafitte. So, I mean, it's quite thick and the print is still small. So that's probably another reason why I haven't picked it up. But I am very intrigued by it. Another one I have is Woman and C.S. Lewis, What His Life and Literature Reveal for Today's Culture. So it's edited by Caroline Curtis and Mary Pomeroy Key. And it is quite short, and I'm actually really intrigued about it to see what C.S. Lewis thinks about women. I've already finished so far this month The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis on audio, which made a comment about women, and it was a little shocking, but I also remember this is 1950s that he wrote it in, so we'll see, but that sounds interesting. Another one I have is She-Wolves by Helen Castor. So these are the women who ruled England before Elizabeth. So these are the women who were looked down on for being aggressive and taking the throne or being in charge. And this is quite a thick book as well, but I remember watching like a mini series about it, and like a 3-part mini series with 1 part per woman, I believe it was, if that's right. So there's, let's see if I can remember the names, or there's more. So there's Matilda, Eleanor, Isabella, and Margaret. Yeah, and that's it. So 4 women, and then the new era of women. So that one has been on my shelves a very long time, and I need to read it. Another thick one is Mary Queen of Scots by Antonia Fraser. Is this my second Antonia Fraser? It is. Marie Antoinette was by Antonia Fraser too. Anyways, didn't realize that. Excited to pick up this one eventually. I don't know much about Mary Queen of Scots. I used to know a lot more as a kid, but I think I knew like a kid version of stuff. So I'm excited to pick up this one. It is a chunker though. Like, I mean, I'm glad to have pictures in every nonfiction book though, but wow, is it heavy and thick. So that one eventually. Next one is The Private Life of the Tudors, Uncovering the Secrets of Britain's Greatest Dynasty by Tracy Borman. So this one isn't that thick. The writing is still tiny. Why is that a thing? And it is about behind closed doors, I guess, about the Tudor family. So exciting. Then I have one that I have been meaning to read for a while, but just haven't gotten around to, and that's Robin Hood by David Baldwin. The English Outlaw Unmasked. And I believe that this one is deciding who is Robin Hood. So like trying to figure out who he is and not just deciphering that all. Another one I have is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. I believe that this one is about Jeanette, who grew up in similar circumstances to Educated, where very poor or very unsettled or abusive home or something like that. Very uneducated, but very unlikely circumstances to grow up and succeed. And then she had to work hard to survive kind of idea. It says, when sober, her father captures their imagination, teaching them physics, geology, and how to embrace life fearlessly. But when he drank, he was dishonest and destructive. Her mother was a free spirit who abhorred domesticity and did not want to raise a family. So they had to take care of themselves. So Glass Castle looks interesting and very important. Another one I have is Sins of the Mother by Irene Kelly. So this one is, I don't know if that's a subtitle or blurb, says a heartbreaking true tale of a woman's struggle to escape her abusive past and the price her family paid. So this one, I believe, is about a woman who, let me read it first, that might help. So this story is about Irene Kelly, who grew up in a very abusive home, and then she was taken to an orphanage for some reason. It doesn't say on the back, but the orphanage was even worse and way more abusive and sexually abusive. And then she also was sent to work in the nursery, where she saw nuns regularly abusing the babies, and it was very traumatic for her. And so it's, I think, about her like going through that, but then also her meeting her husband. And then it says something about years later, her daughter calls her and they have to go back to Ireland, or she received a phone call from Ireland about the past. So it sounds like it'll be a very hard-hitting family book. Then we have a book my sister brought back from me when she went to India on a little vacation visit thing. And that's India Discovered, The Recovery of a Lost Civilization. Now, honestly, I don't know anything about India and the ancient world or in its history. And this is by John Key. So I would be excited to learn more about this culture, which I don't know anything about. I am wanting to wrap this up. The next one that I have is one that I want to listen to, but I can't find an audiobook of, so I bought. And that is This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which is The Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor. I know people love this book, and he's very witty. He journals what really happens in hospitals, and how people say, oh, it's not going to hurt a bit, I think, but it really does. So I think it's very witty and clever, but also describes the human nature and the pain and the real suffering that goes in hospitals. Last one. All right. The last one is The Hittites by O.R. Gurney. Now, this one is one I picked up at a store last year. It is quite short. It's like 175 pages. And it is all about the Hittites. And they are quite commonly known in the Old Testament for being one of the opposing nations to the Israelites. And I still want to read this. It's been over a year now. It was like last August that I picked this up. And still haven't read it. There's like interesting like drawings and let's see if I can like show you interesting stuff here where it's like all about this ancient culture. So that's that. Whew, this is a long video. Thank you for staying here. If you've stayed this long, please give me like a big thumbs up if you have. Also, like I said at the beginning of this video, if you saw anything that you'd like to buddy read on this, let me know. There are some ones that are here, really eclectic taste that I have, and I'm sure that'd be very eclectic to read together. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this nonfiction TBR, entire owned TBR of mine. I had so much fun doing mine for Victober, and I think I might do a different genre for December as well. It's quite fun for me, but this is a long video. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you for sticking with me if you have. I will see you next time with another video. Bye for now.